Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Soul Journey. My name is Vani and I have Kamaljeet over here. And today we'll be continuing to go over the grand dimensions of the creation, but also there'll be a little recap on the creation of the universe from chapter 11. We also urge you guys to check the book out. The information that is being shared during this episode is just a brief overview of what has been detailed in the book Life in the Multiverse by Babuji Darshanbhai Patel. We will also continue with discussing chapter 12, which reveals the multi-layered cosmic architecture of our 100 Kala celestial power in the multiverse. So let's begin. Hello, Kamaljeet. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Vani. Thank you for having me.
So we'll start off with the first question, which is who is the creator of the universe and how do we understand his hierarchy according to Babuji Darshanbhai Patel?
Yeah, I would like to begin with a little thing, that this question and answers that we are having are an insight to encourage everyone, kind of a teaser to the book. And I highly encourage everyone to read the book it is a free download from Bapuji Dashrath Patel's website, paramshanti.org. And the audio book is available on the YouTube channel, the official YouTube channel of Bapuji Dashrath Patel. Can be, it is in Hindi and it is in English as well. The good thing about the book, reading from the book, is that you have visuals about, you will see diagrams, you will get more references from the book, and they have a glossary, of certain terms and information in the book. So I highly recommend reading the book. So about the creator of the universe, so this is, we discussed this last time too, but I think this is such an extensive chapter that one needs to kind of recap, So I think that's why you asked. So the creator of our solar system, of one solar system, is called Shiva. And the creator of the galaxy is Mahashiv. And the creator of one universe is Param Mahashiv. And the higher like when we go from one universe to multiple universes, it becomes another dimension altogether. So then we add another layer to it. We add another Param Mahashiv, more of the Param gets added. So Param Mahashiv is not the father of the infinite. Infinite is, beyond what you can perceive or behave. But a distinct being with immense power. Within him, exists infinite divine light surrounded by Mahatattva or the supreme elements. The Mahatattvas are the supreme elements. We discussed about them before as well. But when he willed creation of the galaxy, two souls emerged from within him, followed by others. Eventually, 12 primary souls who created the space. These multiplied into 9 lakh incorporeal souls, initiating the journey of soul and time. This foundational act gave birth to a vast cosmic family, including angelic beings, farishtas, devas, and ultimately the visible universe. So, the creator of the universe, he decided it was his intention to create more. And so that is why more souls, they emerged from him. The consciousness emerged from within him. He created two souls from within him. This is how one can explain it. Yeah, so what we see as a visible universe is only after the elements, the quality of the elements deteriorated, and then the elements got you can the purity of the elements also decreased over time. So yes.
Then, what was the nature and process of soul creation when you mentioned that well, you mentioned consciousness emerged from him?
So initially, incorporeal souls were created from divine light. First came 12, then 24, then 108, then 16,000, and finally 900,000 or 9 lakh. These souls were the seed souls, and they were made of pure divine light. And forming the environment of Param Mahatattva means of the highest, purest elements that you can think of, like at that particular stage of creation. As creation progressed, the energy flow between the souls gave rise to a supreme ether element, or the Param Akash Tattva. This elemental aura facilitated the transformation of the seed souls into subtle Akari forms. And this is how, from 16 celestial degrees or 16 kala, they descended gradually from that 16 kala to 14 kala or 12 kala, then finally 9 kala, where at this 9 celestial degree or power, or the kala power, where 33 crore deities, gods and goddesses, manifested with complete subtle forms.
And when did time and space begin in the spiritual creation?
Yeah, interesting question. Time and space begin. It is very, very, we are curious to know, and it is interesting. Time began when Param Mahashiva had the first thought of creation, or had the intention of creating. With this intention, or the sankalp, or the thought, the journey of Mahashiv began. The geography followed as the soul descended from the incorporeal dimensions into dimensions where form and shape started, or they emerged. With descent from 16 to 14 kala, or the celestial degrees power, Moolvatan, the seed world, formed. Time here is eternal, calculable. And for reference, the age of a solar system is equal to Brahma's 100 years, where Brahma's one day is about 864 crore years. This scale reminds us how minuscule our understanding, how we very minimum understanding we have at this point of time. It's hardly anything about time, the scale of time as compared to the cosmic history and what one can consider as time and space of the cosmos.
Yeah, time and space, they both seem to be infinite somewhat. Just the spans, especially with space and how vast the universe is and how minuscule we are compared to that. Like, when I think about it, I feel like even like our problems and the issues that we're having, like there are black holes in the universe, and there are like universes colliding and solar systems colliding, and meanwhile, I have a headache, or just it's just it's so vast. Everything is so big, really.
Yeah, true. True.
How did the abstract and corporeal world transition into the subtle world and eventually the physical universe?
So, from 16 Kala to 14 Kala, the incorporeal seed souls began forming subtle shapes with layers of supreme ether element. So everything begins with this ether element around the light. And as more and more souls were created, supreme air and supreme fire elements formed. And at the stage of 9 kalas, fully structured subtle bodies emerged. These mark the formation of the 33 crore deities and, devas or gods, and kind of, they are a certain level of gods and goddesses referred to as in Hindu scriptures. They are not ordinary souls, but Mahashiv and Mahashakti, eternal god and goddesses, forms made of divine elements. The creation of galaxies and divine worlds began the phase of subtle universal manifestations. Yeah, it is very interesting, how the hierarchy is still, your first question was about the hierarchy. So here it becomes more and more clear.
Yeah. So, within this context, what are galaxies and then who created them?
Yeah, so galaxies were created by 330 million or the 33 crore Mahashiv and Mahashakti beings. They were also beings of light only, but yet they still had subtle bodies. They had fallen below the 9 Kala celestial power or the Kala, and each galaxy was enormous. Some were many lakh of light years in size and made of Param Tattva, or many 100,000 of light years in size, and they were made of Param Tattvas. These galaxies were colorful, uniquely shaped, and born out of different combination of supreme elements. And over time, what happened was competition to beautify and expand galaxies led to excessive energy usage. Because once there is the mind here at this point of certain amount of mind started to develop, and that is how also they lost power, because we discussed earlier also with when you are thinking too much, when you are having intentions, you lose energy. And even in our lives, you will see when we get tensed or we are thinking too much about something, we get fatigued, right? So it is due to excessive energy usage, causing a gradual fall in soul power and descent from higher to lower celestial power or celestial degrees or kala. And as the elements transformed from supreme to physical, the galaxies shrunk and multiplied, forming the current universe.
Okay. And how did the visible universe emerge from these high dimensional realms?
So as creation descended to zero kala, 0 degree of celestial power, the proportion of supreme elements also decreased. It was very, very poor, and physical elements increased. The visible universe, what science detects, is a small dot, only about 156 trillion light years in scale, surrounded by a much larger invisible universe. Param Mahashiv resides at the center of this zero kala universe, or the zero celestial degree universe, surrounded by a control system and galactic core. Our visible realm is only the peripheral drop of this vast cosmic nature, which includes layers of supreme ether, which are still active. That even today, these layers of supreme ether are active, and they hold memories, because they were built upon thoughts. So they hold memories even even in our aura, when we think that what happens, this has been discussed before as well. So yeah, so these include layers of supreme ether which are still active.
Very complex is what I understand. Why can't science detect these higher universes or elements? Like you said, we can only see a fraction of the actual universe. So how come we're not able to see, most of it?
Scientific tools, which I will say these are the gross tools, right? Gross elemental tools, like the Hubble telescope, are built from physical elements, and hence they have a limited range. The outcome of their products is also limited. And if these instruments were made of supreme elements, they would access infinite energy and subtle realms. Bapuji emphasizes that these dimensions and universes, many of which are a part of, 100, 100 or maybe 500 raised to the power of 10, multiverses, are beyond current scientific reach. Only a being with immense divine vision. It is not limited vision, but somebody who has really worked on himself and has the depth of that divine vision, such as Param Mahashiva, or a highly evolved being, soul, can visualize and understand this creation. In fact, he has also said that, there will be a time now that when in today's time, when we are talking about AI and all, there will be a time when spiritual AI will evolve. And once spiritual AI evolves, then these, the products of research will also become spiritual. They will have spiritual, finer, supreme elements, and that is the time they will be able to go beyond their limited scope of, like the Hubble telescope. They'll be able to dig deep into universes and multiverses which cannot be accessed at this point of time.
That's very, very interesting. Like spiritual AI, like I can't even begin to comprehend what it would be able to do, what it would explore, and then find findings and the discoveries that we would have about things that have been happening around us all along that we didn't know about. So that I think it's just it's a fascinating time and a very exciting time to be aware and be open to these things, because there's just so much knowledge that is being thrown at you from every angle. There's books, podcasts, videos, so much, and there are like so many gurus that are speaking about it, like Bapuji, and that are just like making us aware about things that we can't see and that we are not able to grasp in like our we won't be able to visualize even, but then with his findings and with his insights and his like spiritual awareness, we're able to like download that information. So I think we're like, I'm very grateful to be living in this time for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There are research, people, archaeologists who are talking about it in a very subtle, in a soft way at the moment. I was listening to a similar, video. I think it was released today only, at least on YouTube. I saw that. I haven't yet watched the entire video. It was probably delving into similar concepts of AI, that how advanced and how good it can also do, So that is important to know.
But also like the dichotomy of it is like it can be so dangerous, it can be so evil, it can be so isolating for people too if you become highly dependent on it. So also there's like, I think with great power comes great responsibility. So we have to be very conscious and mindful of how we're utilizing this tool from here on onwards and how humanity uses it.
Yeah, true.
So my next question would be is what about parallel universes and the multiverse theories?
Yeah, interesting. Somebody even asked a question. I think it was in one of the recent videos by Bapuji. They were talking about Anand Bhai was or Bapuji himself said that there are people, they could be you're here in this universe, in the on this planet, but your like forms, your soul, upper or the lower, or in the lower or the upper dimensions, is there, is probably somewhere there, but you don't know, you know. So, parallel universes are different creations, not similar to our own. And according to Bapuji, each universe has unique laws, their own creators, their own elements and structures. He confirms that science's proportion of these multiverses and explains that these are not myths, but real creations. Real creations, this is about, say, 500 raised to the power of many tens, and then universes. That's what it means. And it explains that these are not myths. This is just not as a story, but real creation. As observed during Bapuji's deep meditation, these are not insights. It is somebody who has been practicing meditation and divinity, working on themselves, will know what it means. Like people, there are many psychics and all, they have said that they can, they do remote viewing, and then some people have a sense of, some kind of sense, either through visual sight or hearing or a sense of feelings. These are different kind of clairvoyance. But with Bapuji, it's none of these. His insight or what he is seeing in his divine vision is with his presence over there. He is just there when he is talking. It is, maybe one can say, he is in that dimension and then this dimension at the same time.
Have you
And
heard of this concept, astro travel, or
astral travel is there.
It's like I know astro travel is like just within this universe and this dimension, but like he's like astro traveling to a different dimension.
This is what he has, one thing he has clarified here, and he has emphasized repeatedly that he doesn't do astral travel.
Oh,
He doesn't do that. He says, I'm very much here. I'm in my body. My soul never leaves the body. Right? And I know of people who, there are teachers and gurus who teach astral travel because it needs to be done under supervision for people who want to learn about the techniques, and it's very, very risky.
it's also on that. I tried doing it, but then I just fell asleep.
Don't do it. Please don't. I highly encourage you not to do it, because what happens once you're out and then you are not able to enter your body back, back into your body. So it can create, your body will be without the soul and it's gone, right? So you have to be very careful. There are teachers who do that. There are people who teach that. I don't know much about them. And though I know of people who have done it as well. But Bapuji, in his case, he doesn't do astral travel. He totally discourages it. He says, don't do it. Go deep into meditation and you will know more than what you are going to get to know with astral travel, because you can go further in your meditation with your work, with working on yourself, and you will be entering in a field of divinity.
Yeah.
And you will know.
Well, and it's somewhat safer, I would say.
Yeah, it is definitely much safer, right? So, what was I saying? I forgot. So he says that these are not myths, can all this can be observed through meditative practices. and each each universe or each celestial creation, the space will have different elemental combination
Yeah.
depending on what the intention of the creator was at that time. The soul hierarchy will depend on the power of the soul and the dimensional layers, and not only Mahashiv, and only Mahashiv will have the complete memory of all these dramas that he's playing, because he's the creator for all this. So he will know what he has been thinking and what was the plan. And they, according to Babuji, these at that in their abodes, they have supercomputers. I mean, they cannot be defined. There are no words to define them.
So, are the original 33 crore deities still present today? And if they are, where are they? What are they doing?
Yeah, so yes, they are very much there, and maybe they are in human forms as well, or maybe onto some other in other spaces. But these 330 million or 33 crore deities are there. The creators of the galaxies descended along with the creation, and many of them may still reside in their respective galaxies. Some were born into this planet as well, and they were coming down at lower dimensions, right? And with the loss of power, they fell from supreme elemental to the physical world, that is this world. And so they started developing a body of 5 elements. They had in the subtle form, they have 3 elements, and in the physical form, when you are seeing something in a tangible physical gross form, then it has got 5 elements. So they came down to the physical world, and however, the boundary created by Param Mahashiva still remains intact. It acts as a protective layer. And these beings may now even appear as stars, lights, or higher vibrational forces in distant galaxies, invisible to our physical perception. And yet, many of them who have descended on Earth, they are forgotten because they got wrapped up in the worldly affairs, and layers of and veils of forgetfulness due to karmic, and actions have developed on them. So that is that Bapuji says his primary aim of being here, is to find those people, awaken these 330 million deities to wake up to their true potential. And in fact, he says almost everyone is.
It sounds like, have you, Eternals, the movie? How these angels were sent to do some work on Earth, and then they forgot what they were here for, and then they awaken. It's not the same thing, but it sounds like that. That's really different.
True. Positive. These all, and in fact, all these insights and these ideas that get sent to these people who are making movies, and you will see many of these movie makers and these writers have become spiritual as well. From spirituality, they delved into movies.
Exactly.
Because there are these subtle beings, higher beings are transmitting information to them, and they are able to create. They may not realize that the information is being transmitted. Some of them know, like this person, Matthias Stefano. He says that there are these beings that have told him to do certain things, and when he created his videos, he was encouraged to do that because he has memories of his lives on other planets.
That's very cool.
Oh, yeah. So these beings can be anywhere, many of them, like I said, descended on Earth as well. And I've forgotten, like we also don't know about our past lives, right?
So then my last question would be is what is Bapuji's vision for the future of science and humanity?
So, Bapuji hopes that science will evolve to create tools from refined elements, as I just shared, of supreme elements, and allowing us to rediscover the supreme elemental universe. And his main desire, he wishes for a transformation of our solar system and sun into their pure original state made of Param Tattvas. He believes that transformation is possible through conscious thought, collective vibration, and spiritual knowledge. That is why, this Behed Gyan, or the knowledge of the Supreme Infinite, is very important, and life in multiverse for me, it is more like, it's not just a book of information. It might be information for somebody who is just reading it as a textbook, or a book of interest, a book with some different information. But for me, it is more like a very sacred book, because it is giving me sacred information, spiritual information, which has not been transmitted through any of the sacred texts before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, his goal, Bapuji's goal, is to awaken humanity to its eternal divine identity that's beyond Shiv and Brahma, recognizing that we are creators from the Supreme Source itself.
So according to Bapuji, when he mentions G1 to G17 in the multiverse structure, what does he mean by that?
Yeah, so G stands for great universes, like G1 to G17 are the 17 dimensions of great universes in our multiverse. Each dimension, that is G1, G2, G3, up to G17, represents a higher level of creation, with G1 being the lowest and G17 being the highest. In this 100 kala or 100 celestial degree, kala universe, every layer contains infinite numbers of universes, or you can say universe class immediately below it. Like if one reads in depth in the book and listens to Bapuji's videos, then only it really becomes clear that each universe has got numerous galaxies and lower dimensional universes below it, within it. Because we cannot perceive the dimensions of the universe and the cosmic scale. So it is hard. It can in two dimensions, it's hard to express on paper or in a linear form. So you can consider it as spirals and one box within a box.
Yeah.
That way one can say that within within G2 is the multiple, you will find multiple G1s, like that.
Okay. Interesting. So then, amongst all of these universes, what makes our universe unique?
Yeah, so our multiverse originally was created with 100 degrees of celestial power or kala. And it is the only one where power has degraded to minus 100 kala, means it's gone below that, from 100 kala to minus 100 kala, resulting in the creation of gross physical world of 5 elements. In all other multiverses, creation still exists in supreme subtle elements. And, it's also, Bapuji said, because of this, this has become a mortal, this multiverse has got mortal places like Earth, where there is life is limited. There is life and death.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then, who governs G1 and what are G1's components?
So this G1 is a great universe, So Param Mahashiv governs G1 from the center of that universe in an incorporeal form, that is in a state of consciousness or formlessness, assisted by his consort Param Mahashakti in a subtle form. The administration includes 108, 16,000 and 900,000 Param Mahashaktis, followed by layers of Param Mahashivas, Mahavishnu, Mahabrahma, and Mahaindras. They all have their own different rules, and they responsibilities, not really rules, but they have their own responsibilities and functions to follow.
So it doesn't have any physical matter.
No, they are not they are not in 5 elements. They are in the subtle form of 3 elements.
Okay. So going to the next one, G2 universe, how is that structured? And so we are G2. So
Yeah.
we have, so like when you said concept of box within a box, so we do have the consciousness element, and then we have something else. So what would that be?
We have a body that became as and when that consciousness was falling down from the subtle form of 3 elements to the 5 elements. So the 5 elements came into being. They got formed because of thoughts, and these five elements were this like earth, fire, air, ether, water, right? And the structure of the G2 universe, the Great Brit universe, it does contain like multiple G1 universes. And our G2 is unique because it holds the central gravitational point. It has a gravitational force of its own for the entire multiverse. It's kind of very interesting to perceive that there are G17, G1 to G17, and G2 is holding that immense power, gravitational pull. It has this immense gravitational pull. The G2 universe has got the central point. And Bapuji has also explained that the different creators, and as and when we are advancing into higher dimensions, great universes, he has explained the generation, the generational hierarchy of the creators. So he has, just to give you an example, there is a 21 Pedi. Pedi is the generational hierarchy of the creator. Well, Pedi is, like when we say that, this is our ancestors, our great grandfather, beyond. So that is the Pedi that's coming down. That's the lineage.
Okay.
Like this, there is the 21 Pedi creator that was sent by the Behad, or the infinite prime minister of Behad, to collect data of the fallen multiverse. So this is kind of looks like a fantasy movie, like I will say that again. But to understand this in depth, best is to also meditate and also read the book. It takes a while. One may have to read it once or twice, because everything has been explained and with diagrams and structures. He has explained it so much in detail in the videos. In fact, we cannot share the video overlapping our conversation, but I will share the link of those videos where Bapuji is explaining the structures on the board. And I think when they have closed captions in English, people can understand that too. So again, to explain, Pedi is the generation of creators or the supreme souls. like we say, the first generation of technology, second generation of technology, what kind of computers were there, what kind of systems were there in technology, and so on. So we will discuss in greater detail in the following chapters also, and like I said, it's important to go through the book. This is just a teaser, like just to tell you that what are we missing, like as reading just general science and
Yeah.
what that is available. This is unbelievable.
Like it's just an introduction to the book, introduction, just like the tip of the iceberg, and then just the topics that are kind of being covered, and just so people have an idea of what they will be learning in the book. So definitely, yes, it's just like, you can't just read the headline. You do want to go into the details and the meat of the information and the news, and that would be reading the book to really understand all the concepts
Yeah.
accurately and correctly. So going on to the system of G3. What is the administrative system there? Because we technically exist within G3 universe.
In a way, yes. In G3, the creator of Param Mahashiv resides in the supreme light form, and around him are the security layers of 108, 16,000, and 900,000 and 20 million Mahashaktis who manage the governance. They protect, actually. They are the protective forces around that as well. And external layers house tourist souls, while the resident souls dwell in the inner layers. Outer layers, somewhere I think we will talk about that also. There are so many layers in the outer layer of the G3 that of all these great universes, which are meant for the tourists or the visitor souls. Sometimes they wait for they rest a little while. Some will like to travel inside. So there are different layers around the outer layers have room for all that.
Interesting. What is the ratio of elements in G3's environment?
So in G3's environment, it is again like it has got supreme light, supreme elements, but it has got 0.2% of supreme light, Param Prakash, and it has 2.5% of supreme elements, the Param Tattvas, and 97.5% of elements that which are the normal tattvas. And these tattvas are the three elements, the Akash, that is ether, Vayu, that is air, and Agni, that is fire. And their ratio is 80% ether, 10% of air, and 10% of fire. See, he has given everything with so much of precision.
Yeah.
Like, it cannot be done without being a part of it. It's almost as though he has been a part of the creation. Like he has done it. He knows it with so much of precision. That's all that I can. It's unbelievable, but and once when delves further and learns from him and listens to his videos, the way he's explaining, one can understand that and it will all come together. He says people will come to know. And so the security layer of G3, like I said, like we all have our own, we secure our borders, right? So even the great universes also, they have secured borders. They don't allow anyone to just enter, any alien species to just land in there. So the security layer of G3 contains 100% of Param Tattvas inside our multiverse, and there are like I said, there were layers. There are 200 layers of G3 with innumerable universes and galaxies, solar systems, and they are separated by the power of their own gravity. The gravity determines the strength, and also that is why they will not collide as well. Some people have debated that, but Bapuji says based on their gravity is structured in such a way that they will not collide, and they are separated by this power.
Very interesting. You mentioned earlier about Turing and resident souls in the universes. So the G3 has that, and do like the other universes have it? And like what's the like what is that all about?
Yeah. So each G universe, each of these great universes has three layers, three inner layers for resident traveling souls, and three outer layers for touring souls from other universes. Like I said, some are just traveling through the universe, and they are touring, and they will move on. And these layers serve as resting zones for souls journeying across dimensions. And there is a very good diagram that explains. I will try and share that. I hope that I can share that along with the video. Yes.
Fingers crossed. So what happens as we ascend into higher G universes like G4, G5, and so on?
Yes. So as we ascend, to higher universes, the percentage of the supreme elements and supreme light will also increase. For example, G4 will contain 0.6% of supreme light and 6% of supreme elements. And the creators and Mahashaktis in these layers are of higher kala, or you can say higher celestial powers, and manage the vast multitudes of all G universes.
Okay. So what is the celestial power or kala range across G1 to G17?
So kala, in great universes will range from 60 colors to 100 kala across G1 to G17. Earlier universes like G17 were created when the celestial power was higher, but as it declined later, universes like G1 were formed with much lesser colors. So again, like for greater details, we can talk in terms of percentages and all that. It will not really be helpful in a conversation like this, but definitely refer to the book, and audio also will not help. The book is very helpful because audio is again audio. You want to look at the pictures that are.
Yeah, definitely. When you visualize things in diagrams, you're able to understand concepts easier.
Yeah, true.
So the last question is, what is the role of Mahashaktis in every G universe?
So, Mahashaktis ranging from.
And sorry, that's not the last question. I just said that by accident.
Okay, no problem. So yes, there are quite a few things we can cover. Whatever we can cover, we can cover. Otherwise, we will talk again in the next time.
Yeah.
Mahashaktis ranging from 108 to 330 million in number reside in security layers. Like I said, they are the protective forces around the creator in each universe, in each G universe. They handle the administration, balance, governance, and resolve conflicts within their respective G universe. It's an amazing, like,
Yeah.
Talking about such cosmic administration governance. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And how is time different in higher G universes than ours or the lower ones?
The time cycle of creation and dissolution, that is the Shrishti and Visarjan. Shrishti is the creation, right? And Visarjan is the dissolution. Increases with each higher G universe. A year on Earth is negligible when we compared this time to the cycles in G11 or G16, which spans eons.
Okay. And what is the role of Mahavishnu and Mahabrahma in the higher dimensions?
In each universe, Mahavishnus and Mahabrahmas exist in the outer layers to assist Mahashaktis in governance. Their numbers equal to the number of G universes one level below. For example, as many Mahavishnus in G17 as there are in G16s within it. So, because G17 has innumerable G16 within it, like I said, box within a box. So the numbers are accordingly.
And then for the elemental compositions of the last two, G16 and G17, what would those comprise of?
Yeah, they have very high percentage of supreme elements. So G16 will have.
Are they more pure than when you say supreme?
Yes, one can say, because they have the highest level of, till G17 is very, very higher supreme elements and supreme light. But yet there are the three elements present. The three levels are there because they are still in subtle. It's not purely incorporeal, right? So in G16, it is about 0.70 to 0.80 of supreme light. And supreme elements are about 70 to 80%. And the tattvas or the elements are 30 to 20%. And in G17, it is about 0.80 to 0.85% of supreme light. And the supreme elements are 80 to 85%. And the elements are 20 to 15%, because at this point of time, they don't have that gross structure, right? They are far above that. So, but both these levels maintain 80% of ether, 10% of air, 10% of fire structure in the elemental layers.
So the next question is, how does creation and dissolution occur in these universes?
Yeah, so all universes, that is from G1 to G17, including our multiverse, undergo continuous cycles of creation and dissolution. Like because countless creations are happening and countless dissolutions also are happening. Means birthing and dying continuously is happening. And this God's chakra or the divine wheel, this is some people can also call it as a cyclical, clock. This divine wheel turns eternally with every dimension having its own unique time span. So what is happening on Earth, the time of Earth is very different in terms of in the cosmic cycle, right?
So what spiritual realization does the structure of G1 to G17 give us?
It reveals that our physical world is just the lowest level of a vast divine, vast divine creation. It cannot be comprehended. And true liberation and understanding comes from transcending the five elements. You have to go beyond, means you have to work on yourself to transcend these five elements, to transform these five elements. Imbibing a lot of, a simple example I'll give you of Many years ago, somebody gifted us. They had developed a small machine to clear the pollution from the air. But then it was very powerful. But it could, wherever you put it, it'll clean up the airspace within that closed room only. So that was many years ago. I will say it was good over 30 years, around 30 years ago, somebody, and this technology was just coming. Now we find these ACs are combined with
The air purifiers, yeah.
air purifiers as well. But that time it was not yet happening, but somebody gifted. So it is something like that, but you are to purify your own soul by work on yourself, by knowledge, by working in terms of getting information, and you use it to empower your soul self and work in your daily habits. Whether it is way of living, whether it is way of thinking, whether it is way of food, whatever it is, that you are moving a step further into your own soul self. You can only reach your soul self when you are fully committed and into your soul self, by clearing all these negativities from your body and your subtle body. Subtle body and physical body will also include your mind and your thoughts and your physical structure of your body also, right? So this is how one can come closer to this, and connecting with the source of supreme light, that is the ultimate creator, and elements, the incorporeal Shiva of the higher G universes. We have just used Shiva, but one can also say as source, the ultimate source, the infinite. We also say as the infinite, the father of the infinite realms, father of Behad. It teaches us about the soul's potential and our origin and our path back to Param, Param, Mahaparam Dham, or whatever it is, the highest level one, wherever the creator had, at whatever level the creator, created that soul. So the soul will only realize once it's working on itself. Sometimes it may realize earlier, but sometimes when it reaches the abode, it will know that, oh, I was created here. This is my creator. So connect with the highest, infinite, father of the infinite, source of all creation. So you will definitely be guided from within.
That's nice. Thank you so much for answering all those questions, Kamaljeet. It was definitely a pleasure talking to you today. So as we conclude today's profound journey through the 17 great dimensions of creation from G1 to G17, we are reminded of the unimaginable vastness of existence governed by layers of supreme consciousness, divine light, and celestial power. Through the infinite universes, galaxies, and dimensions, one truth remains eternal. We're not just physical beings. We're not just souls. We are, in fact, souls of light, originating from supreme realms far beyond the physical world. So thanks to the divine knowledge revealed by Bapuji Darshan Patel, we now understand that our multiverse, once created with 100 Kala, the celestial power, is unique in its fall into dense matter. But even in this fall lies the possibility of its ascension through remembrance, awareness, and awakening. Let us hold this knowledge in our heart, not as theory, but as truth, and work towards our ascension, return home. A reminder of where we came from and where we are meant to return. Bed ki param mahashanti ho sabhi atmaon ko. Infinite of infinite, supreme peace to all souls. So until next time, stay in remembrance of the Supreme, stay in Param Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, Ani. Thank you. Param Shanti to everyone. Param Shanti.